In today's video, we're going to be focusing on starting new workflows and leveraging decisions within those workflows. So let's open up BizWeaver to begin. BizWeaver starts with the workflow design pane already open for you, and you can get started by dropping in the requisite tools. Now, the first tool we're going to use here is the Sql Command Tool. Now, there's a couple of options that you need to pay attention to in this tool. The first one is our set connection option. Now, this connection can either be for HANA or SQL, and these are actually already predefined in our global configuration options. And we're right now focusing on HANA and SQL, but you can actually set up multiple connections. We'll go over those in a different video. But right now we're going to use our one of our connections here, and now we're going to go down to our command type. Now our command types, there are 4 of them, but realistically you're only going to use 2 unless you have legacy software. Now, the reader is going to be for your basic select statements for SQL and HANA. Your non-query is everything else within SQL and HANA, those insert, update, delete, and stored procs with parameters. The post-execution query and stored procedure command types are not normally used because they're for legacy software, and we leave those options there for customers who have a older version of BizWeaver. But the only difference that I want to point out here is that store procedure option or command type does not allow you to pass parameters, where the non-query store procedure command type does let you pass parameters. But for now, we're going to use our reader. Now, the Sql Editor is Sql Command Tool. It has a basic SQL editor here, which you can use for a multitude of things. Like, for example, if you want to write a dummy query, which you have to have a connection type defined, you can run that and it will show you the data there. Now, this is only if you want to enter in just buffer information to run a workflow. But right now, we're going to use a very basic query to grab our information. Now, I already ran this test run option. What it does is it lets you view the query you are running up to a limit of 250 columns, which it will grab more, but you can only view 250 columns. So if there's more, BizWeaver will process them, but you won't be able to see them within the command tool. But right now, I actually don't want to grab all these options here, or all these records. So I want to actually use our top one function within SQL and hit run. And you can see that it will take, the changes will take effect, and you will only see one record. Now, when we go back to the SQL tab, what's going to happen here is that you'll lose that top one I just added. Now, in the test run mode, it does not save changes. So just be very aware when you're editing a query, if you are in the SQL tab or the results tab, because that you can lose a whole bunch of work. So just make sure you're in this tab, you do your editing here, and then when you test run, you only test run to view the item. So we're going to hit OK. And after we do that, we're going to actually add a decision. Now, a decision lets you based off of predefined options from your query or things you want to define, let you go down different branches to do different things. So in this case, we have a field within our query called source application. So within the decision tool, you're going to click this little gray box here, and you have a few columns that you need to select. So the first one is the workflow step that you need to choose from, which there's only one right now, which is the get orders. The attribute you want to choose from, in this case, we're going to use source application, which defines if it's from BigCommerce or another place. The condition, we want it to equals, and in this case, BigCommerce. And then the type is, there's multiple, but there's alphanumeric, numeric, Boolean, and date time. In this case, we're using alphanumeric, and we'll hit OK. And you can see it actually constructs a logical statement to saying if this field is equal to BigCommerce, then we're going to go down this step, which we haven't defined yet. And in this case, I'm going to add a new row, which is going to be our else statement. So everything else is going to be going down this path. So I also do want to define something in here. So we're going to hit sort. We're going to pick our workflow step or attribute. The condition equals. In this case, I'm going to put Shopify. And then the type is alphanumeric. And hit OK. So now we have two options here. And now we're going to drop in a new SQL command. Now, in this case, we are going to use the non-query option, and we're going to use a very simple update statement that says if it is BigCommerce, we're going to update this field equal to 1, where our v2.5 rectum, which is our primary key, is equal to blank. Now, we need to know what that primary key is for the record before, so we're going to actually use our variable selector, which we have to hit F4 for. We're going to go to our get orders step, and we're going to select our v2.5 rectum. In this case, it's alphabetically ordered, so you're just going to select it. You can either hit OK or double click, and it will populate that. Now, what this is actually a step variable from BizWeaver, so you don't actually have to define this as a hard-coded variable. So if you have multiple items going through this decision, which we'll go over in another video, that you can actually have, this will actually change when the value changes, so you don't have to have multiple options there. So in this case, we're going to have this workflow step that BizWeaver generates, and it's going to, whenever whatever that value is, it's going to update that field. You cannot test run non-query though, non-query options within BizWeaver. Those have to be, those are done at runtime. And once again, we're going to add another SQL command. In this case, we're going to say if it's Shopify, and that's just naming the object. And we're going to actually use that and another non-query. And we're going to do the exact same thing. But this time we're going to update that same field with a 99. And the same thing, we're going to grab that v2.5 rectum and hit OK. Now with these decisions, we have to check to make sure they're connected. And in this case, the Shopify connector is, but the BigCommerce one isn't. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that is linked there. And now we're going to add our merge. Now, if both of these options, if that field does not have either of those options, it will skip over this whole decision. So if it's either not Shopify or not BigCommerce, we're going to go ahead and just jump over that whole thing. The last thing I like to do is after I add all my objects, my workflow steps here, I go into my grid view to view to make sure everything is connected. Because sometimes these lines, even though they look connected, they can be they can just float there and not connect to anything. So we just want to ensure they are connected at runtime. We are going to now save this workflow, but we have to add a name. So we're just going to call this BigCommerce or Shopify. And we're going to actually change the folder that we want to save. And root will save in the BizWeaver tasks. But we're going to go ahead and just save this to a : and run save. Now the save, we'll go ahead and run a compiler to make sure there's no errors, which there are none, and that's it. Once we run this, it's going to go down the path, whatever the decision sees in that field. So right now, we're just going to run test run, get orders, and then we're going to our decision. And if we actually select that step and the field we want in our source application, we can see it says BigCommerce, and it's going to go up, which is exactly what we wanted, and end the workflow because there's only one item. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching.